Yes, is this Hassan? Is this
Yes, I
Hassan?
am. How are you,
Hey,
sir?
how are you? How are
Not
you?
bad. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from
Pakistan?
New York.
New
From New
York.
York.
May God bless you. May Allah keep you well.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
sir.
Allah bless you. All right. So I just have a question. So I'm going to put on my Sunni hat. Okay.
Yeah, of
I'm going
course.
to put.
Sure.
I'm going to put on my Sunni hat and my skeptical Sunni hat, and I'll just preface the question by saying, ultimately, what a lot of Shia answers boil down to is that, well, Allah allows the unfolding of the dunya events for His purposes and His wisdom. So
Mhm.
when things embarrassingly fail, that's the ultimate answer, right? And then they use
Yeah.
examples of other prophets that seemingly in the dunya were outdone, but in the end, Allah's wisdom prevails. Okay, so from the Sunni mindset, it seems that the Shia make it so obvious that Omar and Abu Bakr and Aisha and Hafsa were troublemakers. There was a bunch of troublemakers, right? There were different levels
Yeah.
of commitment to the Sahabi.
Sure.
How were the Ahlul bayt and those who aligned with them? How were they so unsuccessful, in preventing, the hostile takeover? It just seems hard. I'm sure you have explanations. I'm sure you know the history, and but I'm just curious
Well,
to see how you respond to that. When a sincere Sunni asks you that, well, how were they so incompetent? How did do you understand the
so
gist of my question? Yeah.
yeah, I understand. So there are certain political things in the world that you can only achieve if you have political support, or there are military objectives that you can only that can be only materialized if you have enough military power. It doesn't mean
Right.
you're incompetent if you cannot do those things. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did not succeed in converting everybody to Islam, or to bring
course,
his
yeah.
da'wah to all corners of the world, or even to the areas outside the boundaries of Arabian Peninsula at the time. And most people
Sure.
who embraced Islam at that time, many of them, as soon as Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, the popular recount of history is that they rejected Islam and they turned back to their previous religions.
Mhm.
So there are things that in life that you can do, what your circumstances are and how much support you have. And that doesn't mean if those things do not materialize that you are not competent. But just la yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. You just did not have the capacity. You did not have that support, or the financial resources or the human resources to reach that goal. Ahlul bayt alayhim as-salatu was-salam, just as Musa alayhi salam, when he went to the Tur Mount,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Bani Israel, they decided to worship a calf.
Right.
And Harun alayhi salam said, "Do not do this," and he prohibited them. And he was not He was not successful to prevent Israelites from worshiping a calf, worshiping an idol. And all the Sahaba of Musa alayhi salam, except very few, they changed their religion and they became infidels and they became apostates. And Harun alayhi salam could not prevent that because he
Right.
did not have enough support. And Samiri had sufficient support to convert the people to a new religion, to worshiping the calf. It was not because Harun alayhi salam was incompetent, or he was a weak person, or he was not knowledgeable, he was not brave enough. It was because Harun alayhi salam could not force people. You cannot coerce people to do something by miracles or by black magic or something extraordinary out of natural way to follow your path. People have to follow you through conviction, through persuasion, through their own free will. And people decided through their own free will, through their own volition, to follow Samiri. Likewise, after the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, most Arabs, vast majority of Muslims were new converts.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were not very old age Muslims. And the old age Muslims also, who had converted long time ago, they were not all of them were not very sincere. All of them were not very obedient. So it's very common for us Shias to point out how Sahaba ran away at Uhud, how the Sahaba abandoned the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Hunayn and Khaybar and other occasions.
Yeah.
And at his deathbed, how Sahaba, and that was Umar and his followers, how they used bad language, disrespectful language against the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Right.
So
Right.
on that occasion, if Ahlul bayt alayhimus salatu wasalam had few followers, it was not their fault. It was not their incompetence. It was not their weakness. It was the weakness of the people, lack of sincerity, lack of iman, lack of faith, lack of devotion to do what's right. It happens always throughout history. It's very common. People who promise their tribes or their nations material gains, obviously they get more popularity than people who call them to spirituality, to the right path, to sacrifice, and to do the right thing. Yeah, that's very common throughout history.
No, I understand that argument, Shaykh Hassan. I understand it well. It's just that from the Sunni psychology, it almost like lowers the status of the Prophet. A lot of these people are it's almost like, the Sunnis are taught a very magical Disney version. Sort of everyone became a saint. Everyone became a wali overnight. And I see the Shia perspective as much more realistic, almost pessimistic, but realistic. And when you try to bring that sobriety into the discussion, some Sunnis sort of like violently, they say, what do you mean the Prophet? What do you mean he wasn't successful? And so it takes a little bit of sobriety to understand it. But thank you so much for.
May God bless you. May Allah keep you well. Thank you so much. You have another question, or that's it?
Oh, I did, but I don't want to take you off topic of the thing. Okay. My question is with the poisoning and with this qirtas. Just logistically, I'm trying to figure out, how was the Prophet left so vulnerable, for instance, with the poisoning, right? I mean, was he just in someone else's house and no one was around? I guess,
so
work?
he has his family, he has his wives who conspired to poison him.
Right.
So that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not have any mechanism to prevent that. He didn't have a food taster, and if somebody wanted to poison him if he was near enough, it was very possible, very feasible. So
I mean, sure, if he was in a weakened condition, but I figure if he was in a weakened condition, you figure that at least one of his Ahlul bayt would have been around and figured out or seen what Aisha was trying to do, or no? Is that a legitimate question?
So, and Shia sources, we do not have the exact story of how he was poisoned.
Right.
So, and it would be very difficult for Ahlul bayt alayhim salam, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha, always watch what the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam eats, right? And what, even if you watch, you can't tell a poisonous food. How can you tell if some food is poisonous?
Sure.
Yeah, poisonous food does not look different than other food. Yeah. So that would have been very difficult to prevent. If somebody wanted to poison him and assassinate the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam in that fashion, except through ilm al-ghayb, through divine intervention.
Yeah.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not always intervene, right? A lot of time Allah allows for martyrdom to take place and destiny to take its course. Aside from that, it would have been impossible to prevent his assassination. Yeah. Thank you so much, brother. May Allah bless you.
Thanks. Yep.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Alaykum salam.